Kudash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabaoth, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts. Yah, He, Va, He, meaning divine masculine, which is the first Yah. Divine feminine, meaning He, Va, meaning divine masculine, back to divine feminine. Hey, Yah, Hey, Va, Hey, as a collective whole, creating the tetragrammaton. In the beginning, Elohim said, let us create them in our image. Keywords us. Elohim, meaning plural, more than one. Divine masculine and the divine feminine. As above, so below. The macro prosophis above and the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms and the host of the Elohim. So today I'm going to touch back more on the topics of natural magneticism. But today these are called the 7 hermetic principles of enochian, Hermes, Thoth, which are one and the same in character. And these are the principles, the 7 principles, and how they correlate with the Kodesh scriptures. When I say Kodesh scriptures, I mean holy scriptures, because the holy scriptures are not just subject to the Bible. There was a lot that was added, and there was a lot that was taken away. And it's a lot that the patriarchs and matriarchs learned throughout their traveling to the four corners of the earth. And a lot of forbidden knowledge in which a lot of religious institutions will not teach you today. That's what I'm here for, to wake up the chosen seeds and the elect, because in the latter time, as the Messiah said, he said, I must leave to send you the comforter so you will work greater wonders than I had. So he's telling you, you will be able to perform miracles. You will be able to change the course of weather, the energy that surrounds you, all for the greater good of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Alkalun the all in one, the one in all. In the old holy tablets, it says the Elohim with the A. In the Bible, it says the Elohim with the E, you know. But we're going to jump right into it. This is out of the Kabbalion, and it talks about the 7 principles, hermetic principles, that deal with Enoch, Hermes, and Thoth, which are all one and the same in character. Remember that. All right, we're going to jump right into it. This talks about duality, as above, the so below, and so on and so on. All right. The first principle is mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all, the outward manifestations and appearance which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomenon of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universe. So, infinite living mind. It also explains that all the phenomena, world, or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the very mental and psychic phenomenon that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which without such explanation are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of the mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible. The student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. Now, that is the first principle of the seven, which is mentalism, understanding the mind. The second principle is the principle of correspondence, how things correlate. Now, this is where it gets into the duality. The principle of correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomenon of the various planes of being and life. The old hermetic axiom ran in these words: as above, so below; as below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secrets of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of the universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is and universal law. The ancient Hermetists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. It Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the existence that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught, just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory. So, a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Studying the monad, he understands the archangel. Principle of correspondence. That is principle 2. The third principle is the principle of vibration. Hold on. The principle of vibration. Turn my frequency hurt music down. The principle of vibration. All right, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet, this hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the difference between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, even spirit, result largely from varying rates of vibration. From the all, which is pure spirit, down to the gross set form of matter, the gross set, in the books of Solomon, the greater and lesser keys, it calls them the grotesque. It means the grosser, the lower state of creation, things that vibe on a low vibration. From the all, which is pure spirit, down to the gross set form of matter. Matter is a physical object from a liquid. The higher the position in the scale, the vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidly that it is practically at rest, just as rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless. And at the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscles and electron atoms and molecules to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true on the plane of energy and force, which are but varying degrees of vibrations, and also on the mental plane, whose state depend upon vibrations, your vibrational frequency, and even on to the spiritual planes. And understandings of this principle, which with the appropriate formulas enables hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power, says one of the old writers. Remember in the book of Revelation, he said those two witnesses, they will be able to control the heavens and the earth, let it rain or not rain, shut up and control the natures and the powers of the elements. That's why it's key that you know these things. Everything works in duality, esoteric, exoteric, inward, spirit, then matter, mentalism to manifestation. Every thought leads to actions, So you have to be careful what you ponder upon, and that's why it's good to be consistent in your pattern by speaking things into existence like affirmations and saying that I am. Normally, those exercises are done on a 21-day period so they can encode this remembrance into your DNA. It's time to wake up those chosen seeds. The fourth one is the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Remember I said this. See, a lot of people want to be one-sided. They try to understand the Bible, but they don't understand that it has twofold meanings. It is written in metaphors, allegories, and figurative language because the Messiah couldn't come outright and say these things in which I am saying to you right now today. But he was trying to wake the people up and showing them that they have these abilities as well. He said, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. So he's telling you, just as well as all the patriarchs and matriarchs throughout the Bible. And in the Psalms, it says, ye are all God's children of the Most High. So it's telling you something. As above, so below. But This is what religion institutions don't want you to know. But it's very vital that I put it out. Some people condemn it, some people won't. But if it was real, you will feel, and what's fake, you can't relate. It will resonate with your spirit. The Shekinah, the Kundalini, the Holy Spirit, all within the same, just different names. That's why the devil was able to divide and conquer, because the division amongst religion sets, names, translations, and words got people confused. They think that they are worshiping or doing something wrongfully that is not wrong at all, but which is righteous within the law. If they seek and study until they show they self-approved, they will know these things. Everything is dual. This is the fourth principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pairs of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but the difference is degree. Extreme meets all truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The principle embodies the truth that everything is dual, twofold. Everything has two poles, North Pole, South Pole. Everything has its pair of opposites, all of which were old hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that had perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. Basically, if they're on a high vibration or low vibration, we just went through vibration. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Now listen to this. Extremes meets everything. I just started reading this book yesterday, and it was so deep, I figured I had to do a video on these because I was just recently talking about things of the same nature. But, see how the Holy Spirit works. He leads you to the water, and it's up to you to drink it, and then you find the truth by looking at the consistency and patterns. And these consistencies and patterns are correlating with the things that I've already been bringing out. Extreme meets everything, and it isn't at the same time. All truths are but half truth. You know why? Because it's two sides to every story. Every lie got a little truth in it too. Remember I said that the other day? Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything, etc., etc., etc. It explains that in everything there are two poles or opposite aspects. That opposites are really only two extremes of the same thing, with many varying degrees between them. To illustrate heat and cold, although opposites are really the same thing, the difference consists merely of degrees of the same thing. Look at a thermometer and see if you can discover where heat terminates and cold begins. There is no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. The two terms, heat and cold, simply indicate varying degrees. See? Of the same thing, and that the same thing which manifests as heat and cold is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. So heat and cold are simply the two poles of which we call heat, and the phenomenon attendants thereupon are manifestations of the principle of polarity, which is duality. The same principle manifests in the case of light and darkness, which are the same thing. The difference consists of the varying degrees between the two poles of the phenomenon. Which does darkness leave off and light begin? What is the difference between large and small, between hard and soft, between black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive and negative? The principle of polarity explains the paradoxes. No other principles can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example, that of love and hate. Two mental states apparently totally different, and yet there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and a middle point in which we use the term like or dislike, which shade into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither. And all are simple degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you will but think a moment. And more than this, and considered of more importance of the hermeticists, it is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Many of you who read these lines have had personal experiences of the involuntary rapid transition from love to hate, and the reverse in your own case and that of others, and you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will, by means of the hermetic formulas. Good and evil are but poles of the same thing, and the hermeticists understand that art of transmuting evil into good by means of an application of the principle of polarity. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy, known and practiced by the ancients and modern hermetic masters. And understanding of the principle will enable one to change his own polarity as well as the others if he will devote the same and study necessary to the master the art. To master the art. The fifth principle is the principle of rhythm. Rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tide. All things rise and fall. That's why it tells you in the Bible, thee that leadeth into captivity will go into captivity. Thee that killeth with the sword will be killed with the sword. If you notice, every kingdom that was risen up was taken out by another kingdom. As you seen on the statue in the book of Daniel when it was talking about the multiple different nations by describing them in an allegory of Pacific metals and clay, and how one would capitalize on another. And as one would rise, another one would fall. There's nothing new under the sun. This is karma. This karma is in the law. The law is the law, statutes, and commandments of the do's and don'ts, which correlate with the Torah, which correlates with the Torah, which correlates with rotas, which means the wheels in each cycle and period of the ages. That's why in Matthew 24, when he said it will be the end of the age. We are in the age of Aquarius. It means that it is a rejuvenation period, a reset period, a transition period where poles shift. Poles shift. It says the principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion to and fro, a flow and inflow, a swing backwards and forward, a pendulum like movement, a tide like ebb and flow, a high tide and a low tide between the two poles which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago. There is also an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds and the rise and fall of nations. What I just said about the book of Daniel and the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man. And it is with the latter that the Hermeticists find the understanding of the principle most important. The Hermeticists have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have all discovered certain means to overcome its effects in themselves by the use of the appropriate formulas and methods. They apply the mental law of neutralization. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learned how to escape its effects. That's why it's key to know these things. I'm glad everything's been correlating in my studies, because alkaline to all, the all in one, the one in all coming from the Most High to get us to our higher self, that Christ consciousness, that crystals, that anointed one, so that Kundalini rise, so we move from that grotesque low state to that high vibrational state. Upon themselves to a certain degree, depending upon the mastery of the principle. They have learned how to use it instead of being used by it, controlling the narrative. In this and similar methods consists the art of hermeticists. The master of hermetics polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to another pole. That mood change, that energy shift, taking you from out of character to one place to another place. All individuals have obtained a degree of self-mastery. Do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously, but the master does this consciously. So most people are doing stuff unconsciously, but a master is consciously and fully aware of his own actions in every moment of time, space, and matter. Back to this. And by the use of his will, and obtains a degree of pose and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses, who are swung backwards and forwards like a pendulum. This principle and the polarity has been closely studied by hermeticists, and the methods of counteracting and neutralizing and using them form as important part of the hermetic mental alchemy. All right, the sixth one is the principle of cause and effect. See how this correlates with the video I freestyled the other day? Because all the stuff I've been getting out of multiple different books and studies, the key to finding the truth and it setting you free is finding the pattern in it. So you can capitalize on it and you can find the dual meanings to things. So therefore you can explain them better. You can explain anything better if you know how to present it in a dual way, not a one-sided way where it only can be understood in one aspect. It has to be, open to everything but attached to nothing so you can see the big picture. The principle of cause and effect, which is number 6. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to